What is up, everybody?
Oh
It's the Winter Breakdown podcast with the Salt Company interns. It is exactly 11:30 military time on Thursday, December 16th. My name is Briar.
I'm Vanessa.
I'm Daniel.
And this week, Vanessa actually got to watch me throw up hysterically in the parking lot. Talk to me about that.
I did. Well, we did do a brutal workout, but then we were trying to communicate afterwards, and you kept like gagging. I was like trying to distract him with random thoughts, but then I walk out into the parking lot. Olivia has her ears plugged, and she's like turned away, and I see you by a car just puking or dry heaving, I don't know. And I just went to my car, and I was like, good luck, guys.
Vanessa walked out, and I was like expecting like a verbal like or something, but it was just like I heard her feet pick up rapid pace and didn't hear a thing. It was like and then she just got in her car.
Yeah, in that situation, I'm not sure if you want a pat on the back or like, are you okay? So
yeah, we rode 2,000 meters, and then what happened was I think I like there was something in my throat, like my throat was really scratchy. And you guys know I have the worst gag reflex ever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started coughing a lot. And then my coughing made me gag. And then my gag started going. I mean, I might start gagging now.
Oh, gosh.
My gag started going. And then because I drank a gallon of orange juice at the Christmas party the day before.
That's what was coming out?
Oh, no. Wait, that would have been. Yeah.
No,
it was the same day. So I hadn't have drinking the orange juice yet. But
Tuesday morning.
Wait, what?
No, it doesn't matter. Details.
Right. Wednesday.
You drank a lot of orange juice?
I drank a lot of orange juice somewhere because it was very sweet.
Oh, that was at
on Tuesday morning.
That was at the planning meeting.
That's what it was.
I saw you with the carton
dude,
of
I
orange
was
juice.
slamming orange juice. And so I just puked all that up the next
Carb
morning.
up, yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of sick. That's how my week started. What about you guys? Or Daniel, what was your week like? Anything crazy like that happen?
No, nothing like that. I've had a lot of Chick-fil-A.
Right.
You know, just at different church things, but that's about it.
Any great news this week?
I know exactly what you're referring to.
I don't know if we need to go there.
But no, I'm just gonna leave that one off the ones and twos, off the airways.
Any bullets dodged?
Actually, yeah, I was shot at.
So where are we going today? Why are we here, guys?
Yeah, so Daniel, kind of give us an intro about the podcast, and then maybe I'll cast a vision, and then Vanessa can kick us off.
Yeah, so essentially winter breakdown, right? So we're breaking down different questions that students have sent in. And that's really what we want to encourage is people asking questions of their faith, of the Bible, of theology and stuff like that. And we just want to promote that and answer questions, yes, but more so facilitate, like how do you look to find these answers for yourself? I use the expression a lot of like, we don't necessarily want to teach people. I got that wrong. So I'm going to backtrack. We don't necessarily want to just like hand people food.
Yep.
We want to teach people how to fish.
That's good.
And get the food for themselves. So yeah, that's really our goal here.
Yeah, I think we're going to be moving through a series of things that are, I would say, not of different importance, but maybe just like whenever I think about the gospel, like that's like a close-handed thing.
Yeah.
Right? But whenever I think about maybe like a tertiary issue or debate, we want to less close our hands on those and actually offer up more of an open-mindedness and a level of humility because we honestly don't know a lot of what the Lord has hinted at in Scripture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you define tertiary? Because that's a new word in the past year, so I don't know if all of our listeners will know what that means.
Yeah, it's a new word for me in the past year too. That's good. A tertiary issue would be like a third. So we kind of, I skipped the secondary issues too.
Mm-hmm.
So a primary issue would be anything that is, so the gospel, anything that is very close-handed that like arguably like if you disagree, you're maybe not even a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I think what would be some more primary issues? The characteristics of God.
The triune or Trinity.
Trinity.
Yeah, the virgin birth.
Right. Total depravity.
Total depravity.
Jesus
like
being human.
Yeah, the atoning sacrifice, the incarnate Christ.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
And then secondary issues would be more of like probably gender roles, the role of baptism. What would be some more
like things denominations split over?
Right, that's a really good way to put it. Like what split denominations? Except for Yeah, never mind. Yeah, so that's good. And then third would be things that like me and my best friend could actually disagree on this: creation, end times. Those two are like I feel like the most notable ones.
Yeah, where the Bible doesn't really go specifically into detail. And
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
But I like someone described it as primary issues are written in blood, and so they're like
Come
no
on.
like discussion about it. The tertiary or secondary are written in pen, and then the third are written in pencil. And so
Pencil. That's
kind of
good.
like a good way to like kind of think about
Yeah,
it.
Dang, that's
fire.
Bro, what? That's good. Yeah, that's
Wow.
good. So yeah, today I think the vision for this podcast is close our hands more on the blood, maybe dabble in some of the pen, and then open our hands and just be more open-minded with some of those tertiary or penciled in things.
So essentially what we're saying is what we are talking about, some of them like are firm, but there's a lot of things that we're going to be talking about that we're like, maybe we don't even really know what is the exact answer, but we
Yeah.
kind of have, I don't know, discovered on our own where we're kind of land. But also it's open. Like we want you guys to like think about it and research for yourself.
Yeah, that's good. We want to just bring it back to Daniels. We want to teach you guys how to learn yourself, teach you how to fish over than just how to eat.
Mm-hmm.
So
Nice.
sweet. So where are we going with this?
Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about science versus Christianity on creation or cosmology. Cosmology is just sort of the study on how things were created. And so the broad question is like, is science and like the Big Bang and evolution true on their account for creation, or is the Bible true, or are they maybe like coinciding? Do they even go against each other? So that's kind of what we're talking about today.
Yeah. So before we get in, I want to kind of like hear your guys' backgrounds of like what has science and Christianity like this, these two that seem like very contrasting areas. What like in your past life or past life and in your like past, what is the relationship between those two looked like? Maybe in your upbringing or whatever.
Yeah, I would say like how I was raised, I don't think they were like two like science is totally wrong and creation like they were very separate, but they do work well together. Yeah, I don't know if I have a lot to say, but I think it's just pretty basic, like no red flags, but also sometimes, and I think we'll talk about this later, but like we want to ask certain questions about the Bible before like looking at the Bible first. And so I think that's when excuse us
Sorry,
for a moment.
Briar. Just saw like Briar tried to hide a burp. It was hilarious.
All right, keep going.
But so like when we ask certain questions, like are we looking at the Bible first, or are we trying to pin certain questions onto the Bible? And so that can become the issue. But
Hitting on something big there.
yeah.
I don't think I ever encountered a ton of like, this is what you have to believe about creation. Because obviously going through public school, I was taught, here's how everything was made. Here's evolution. I was presented those schools of thought. And obviously like I encountered other people who like, oh, I super hardcore disagree with that, or I super hardcore agree with that. That's the only way to see it. And even in the church, I would go to like youth groups occasionally as a kid, and in the church I heard different takes of like, a lot of this is just metaphor and, you know, like kind of gray. Other people, and then even in the church it was like, nah, definitely evolution, or no, 6 days, hard 6 days on creation. So yeah, I think that goes into why we're answering this question, because we had a lot submitted, but this has been a big one that's pervaded a lot of the church in history. So we thought it'd be a cool one to wrestle with today.
Yeah, I think for me, like, so I grew up atheist because of this.
Mm.
I thought that like creation, the Christians in my sphere growing up were basically like, if you do not believe the Bible explicitly, you cannot be a Christian. I don't think anybody ever told me that, but it was how my simple mind at a young age interpreted it.
Yeah.
So whenever I heard some of the more like less logical things. I was like, I don't believe that, therefore I can't be a Christian.
Sure.
Like, I don't believe that. I'm not gonna even dabble with this. This is a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And as I started to like grow in my own faith, I remember like months before I actually decided to give my life to Christ, I was like doing a ton of research about these areas, and I saw people actually having multiple flows of thought, multiple theories, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, there's not just like one way, and that actually opened up an avenue for my my like tilt, my mindset to
Sure.
kind of actually get to a place where I could take a leap of faith
Mm.
into Christianity. So
Come on.
Yeah, wow.
Sweet. Yeah, I think that's a great segue to just jump on in. So starting it off, sort of the question behind the question of science versus Christianity with creation is in Genesis 1, right? We get maybe the first account of creation. We'll probably go into that a little bit. But in Genesis 1, we're given the 6-day creation story. Is that literal? What do we make of that? Is it like literally a 6-day creation story? So yeah, wrestling through that. Do one of you guys want to jump off and break that down a little bit?
Would you want to first share what the two sides are on this? Like, what is the argument here?
Yeah. So one side argues that this isn't literal. This is saying that, well, evolution has been backed up by science. We know that according to science, the Earth was created over millions and millions of years. Prior, stop looking at me like that.
I had to burp again.
He had to
And
burp
so I
again.
was staring you in the eyes.
There's grace for that. You're good.
Okay.
But yeah, dude, you're gonna start making me laugh. I can't look at you. So, but yeah, there's people who think it's more metaphorical. It's not literal, and then there's others who would say this is the literal 6-day creation story. The Earth was made in 6 days, and everything on it. So yeah, those are the two sides of the argument.
Yeah. Are we saying what we kind of like think? What are
Sure,
our
if
thoughts are?
you feel comfortable doing so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, honestly, learned a lot as we were preparing for this. I think the way I was raised, small town, small church, and I wasn't like really shown a lot of different ways the people like come to the text and have objections. And so I have like for the most part of my life just been like, yeah, of course it's 7 days. Like it says day. Why would I argue with that?
Mhm.
But then it's super interesting to hear about like what could like as we pull apart the text, like what as it's been translated to English, like what are we missing from the original words? And so yeah, right now I'm not on one side or the other, but yeah.
Yeah, I think like another thing to just think about is like it could be somewhere very in between, and it probably is, honestly. Man, I feel another thing to consider is the God of the universe can like step outside of logic, and so he could have like sped up like the time of Earth to like 24 hours. Like that's like a possibility. So those 6 days could have literally been 24 times 6, and the Lord could have just like sped up time. Like he could do anything he wanted to. And I don't think that's not a theory that I think we need to like actually like mess around with, because there's no evidence of that. But the idea that like the Lord, like there's so like we cannot even like verbally wrap our minds or words around like this idea. And so there's a couple theories of this, and maybe we should just run through a few of the theories. So we have those two theories, and then you have the gap theory. Vanessa, you want to debrief us on that real quick?
Yeah, so I just learned about this morning, and I'm going to read a part of this book, which I would highly recommend, The Epic of Eden. The chapter I've read is really good, and I've heard really good things. But yeah, so the gap or reconstruction theory thinks that there might be a gap between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2, which should be filled as follows. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and there was war in heaven, and Satan and a third of the angels waged war against God and his angels. An angel was defeated and cast down to earth, and as a result, the earth was or became formless and void. and darkness was moving over the surface of the waters. So essentially, it's pretty self-explanatory, but they think that there's a gap in there, that there's more time in between the Lord created the heavens and the earth. And I don't know if I have enough knowledge to talk a lot about it right now,
Yeah.
but
Dan, do you know much about the gap theory?
Not a ton, other than what we talked about it, but I think it would fall closely, maybe not right under the umbrella of, but closely to the not literal 6 days.
Right.
But that like is in the name. Like there's a gap in between this day, and the word day is more metaphorical for like the era in which something was created. So say like mankind or the heavens and the earth, on the first day.
Mhm.
There's a gap in between.
Yeah. Aiden, you want to get the timer back? It blacked out on us. Just walk in front of the camera. That'd be fun. Look at Aiden, everybody. Everybody get up for Aiden.
Woo!
He's our producer,
Aiden.
executive producer of the Winter Breakdown podcast. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's one thing. And we totally skipped over the whole idea of the genre of writing.
I was gonna get there.
Okay, yeah. I think, should we maybe talk about one or two more theories and then talk about how genre impacts them?
If you have, I can't think of any other ones.
Well, you had one more in the book.
it was kind of about the literal 24 day theory.
24 hour. Yeah, go talk about that, because I think the gap theory would maybe err on more of the side of not literal,
Mhm.
where what was the name of this theory again?
The geological era theory.
The geological era theory.
So there's actually 6 eras of undefined length. So yeah, each day is a period of time, which we don't really know how long it is what this theory is saying.
Right. So like one day might not actually be 24 hours, but it might be, the prehistoric age.
An era.
An era. Right.
Yeah, which would still fall under that same umbrella.
Right.
And then there's the literal or 24-hour day theory.
Mhm.
And so that's talking about more about like, is this poetry or is it narrative? Is that the other
Mhm.
one?
Yeah. Historical narrative. Yeah.
And so, yeah, that each day was actually 24 hours. And I think I read somewhere in here that an argument for the 24-hour day is like people, like if people don't agree with it, then they doubt like how much God could actually do in a day. It's like, well, why would we doubt that God couldn't like
Mm.
make the waters form between land and ocean in one day? I think might be part of it. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, and you touched on something there. I think that is a good lead into talking about the type of writing. But you touched on how paying attention to the style of writing or the literature in that story is important. And so one of the arguments is that in Genesis 1, the type of literature, like this literature style used, is poetry. And so therefore it's not literal. Those aren't actually 24 hours. It's a metaphor. Which in doing some of the research beforehand, something I stumbled across was where asking the wrong question for a few different reasons. And I'll touch on 2 of those. But one of which is that poetry and something being literal don't go together. Like they can't go hand in hand, because for something to be literal, it's not using figurative language. And so therefore poetry 9 times out of 10 isn't literal. And that's kind of the point. But that doesn't mean it's not historical.
Right.
Something can still be historical even if it's using figurative language, which would mean it's not literal.
Right.
So like we talked about, like wanting to help people learn how to sort of wade through answering their own questions is looking at the genre of writing that's being used. So in Genesis 1, and there's some differing opinions, but I would argue that it's a poetic narrative. But it is telling a story, and it can be taken as historical.
Mhm.
But I would say if we're just asking the question, is it literal? Like, meaning, are there any figurative language or metaphors used? Yes, like it's not literal.
Yeah.
But the other side of that is when in asking questions that aren't meant to be answered from this text is that the creation narrative that we're given in Genesis 1 and in Genesis 2, there's actually two creation narratives given. They're not trying to prove exactly how God created the heavens and the earth or just creation in general.
Mhm.
What they're doing is they're showing you who God is, because that's our first
Yeah, so
introduction,
good.
right? Like when say you're watching a movie, you're being introduced to the characters. It's not just going to jump in and just be like, boom, all the big action, whoa. It's showing you who the characters are. It's giving you the background story.
Mhm.
And so, for example, what we see from Genesis 1 is we see a creator God, and we see a God who creates peace out of chaos.
Mhm.
And what's really interesting here is when you do a little bit more digging is that in other ancient Near Eastern cultures, there were many gods and they were all fighting and like trying to get their own glory and all these things. And like creation was sort of an accident out of all those things. And the Hebrew creation story that we have here, written by Moses traditionally, is showing that the one true God, the God of the Israelites, the God of the Old Testament, New Testament, Yahweh, is not fighting with anyone or himself. He's creating with a purpose, with a plan, and he's making peace out of all these jumbled up things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like whenever we talk about boundaries
Mhm.
and primary all the way down to tertiary issues, I think like as Christians, the origin story actually is not an origin story; it's an identity story,
That's good. Yeah.
right? And so it tells us like if we leave with one thing, it's that God is the creator and we are the created.
Yeah.
Right. It's very humbling. This is not our earth. Like he gave us breath, he could take it away like that. Right.
Mhm.
Not only that, but he rose up the mountains. He could literally shred the mountains like that, you know? And so it's an identity thing. It's not an origin thing. And so whenever you have we've been talking about like a road analogy, like whenever you have the ditches of, okay, I'm on the road if I believe that. I'm on the road if I really hold closely to God being the creator, me being the created, and God being, I mean, there's so much power in the idea
Yeah.
of creating the
Mhm.
world, no matter whether it's 24 days or millions of years. That's amazing.
Or 6 days.
Or 6 days. What did I say?
24 days.
I meant to say 24 hours. 6 days. Sorry.
You're good.
And then us being created, like we were just, he gave us his breath and all these things. And so, like that just is, it shows the separation of mankind and God. And I think like how that happens is far less significant than that right there. And so, yeah, moving forward, like,
Oh, can I ask a question quick?
yeah, go
Do
ahead.
it.
What if the person, like, I feel like there might be people viewing. I used to be in this camp that I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't clearly say, it's not the super significant thing. Like, I believe God's creator and he created all things. And so why do I need to even have these discussions, or should I be having these
That's a great question.
discussions? What would you say to that person?
That is a great question.
Yeah. I would say that you're right. This isn't a primary issue. And so this isn't something you're going to wrestle over of like, am I saved? Am I not saved? Like, do I agree in the 6-day creation? Like, oh my gosh, I don't know. So like, I hope that this isn't causing you anxiety.
Right.
It's not the end of the world or the end of your faith. And I think the point is, at least the point that I've been trying to get at is like, I don't think we ask the right questions when we're approaching this. And so I'd invite people to sort of like take a perspective shift, because like you said, it's not life or death or eternity in heaven or hell. It's like, okay, what does it say about God? And that's the reason for studying it.
There
Like,
you go.
do I know God as he's presenting himself to us through this story? Like how'd you word it? The identity story?
Yeah, it's less of a story about origin and more of a story of identity.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think what you said something profound right there. Like the goal is to learn more about God.
Mhm.
Right.
And so as we like, the Lord is this infinite well of like beautiful knowledge that as we learn more and more about him, we actually fall more and more in love with him.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And so that would be my encouragement
Yeah.
is like read these stories too. I'm thinking literally of like the cross chart right now. Like we see how like small man
Mhm.
is. And I know the cross chart talks about sinfulness and sin hasn't quite entered the world yet, but we see the smallness of man, and we see the gloriousness of the Lord. Is gloriousness a word? The
The
glory
glory.
of the
Yeah.
word. And then eventually we're going to see Christ, who is literally there at this moment, actually bridge that gap for us, which to me is just like some fire.
Mhm.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Little Christophany action.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that a
not
little
getting
bit.
into that
but
big words.
yeah, that's dope. And so that would be my answer to
Yeah.
that question. What do you think, Vanessa?
Yeah, I think simply put, like it should stir our affections for
Yeah.
God as we understand more who He is and coming to the text with right questions. And also, that should stir our affections to be like, wow, this God is even like, I can't comprehend Him even more than I already thought because there's so much to
Yeah.
who He is. And I am very small. And so, hopefully, these conversations, like when I talk about it, I get really excited and I just see how wonderful and huge our God is of the world. And so that's really exciting.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sort of the next question that falls underneath this is like, so with old Earth versus new Earth, like 6-day creation, millions and billions of years, like what do we do with that? So like more attacking the actual question, like the question of old Earth, new Earth. Is the Earth younger than we think? Is the Earth like old, like science says? Doesn't matter. What do you think?
I personally like it. To me, I think it matters because it's the work of the Lord. But to me, I also think it doesn't matter because it's not the gospel.
Uh-oh.
Not saying that everything. Well, actually, I would maybe say the gospel is the only thing that matters. It depends on semantics, on what you say matters, blah blah blah, whatever. But I almost like this. This might be heresy, not heresy,
Uh-oh.
but just a lack of wisdom.
Love it.
I think of, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong here. I see more of exploring tertiary issues as more of a hobby. Not even a hobby. It's like somewhere between a hobby and my life. It's not a hobby. I'm not doing this just for fun, but it's also is not what my life revolves around. And so, yeah, I think that's what I do with it. Like, I don't know if it's new Earth, old Earth. And even if I did, I probably wouldn't tell everybody because we instantly lose credibility. If someone, like, I know there's people that are going to listen to this podcast, like, aching for the answer.
Mhm.
They're like, if they say new Earth or old, if they say old Earth, I'm never coming back to Salt ever again
Amen.
because they don't know anything.
Yeah.
And so,
Bro.
like, I'm not going to, like, I don't want you to quit listening to me about that and never give me a chance to talk about the gospel with you.
Over a very low hanging
Yeah, like that is such a minor
issue.
thing,
Mhm.
right?
I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Like you said, like this isn't my life. Like this isn't something that's, like we said earlier, like this is determining my salvation. So it's not something I'm going to spend time arguing with someone over, especially if they don't know the gospel.
Yeah.
I think there's a ton of wisdom
go.
there.
And even for us, like we should not break community with people that disagree with us.
Right.
Like as mature Christians, like we need to be like a level of humility to where if someone does share something that I'm like, oh yeah, maybe like my conviction is not that, especially with like a tertiary issue. If we're gonna break community over that, then like Satan's got the upper hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Or I even think with unbelievers, if they're coming at you with these questions and they only want like their
oh yeah,
like
that's good.
opinion,
That's really
like I would, like I always say, especially like with sin things, like we don't go to unbelievers addressing like, we go straight to the gospel, and like the gospel is the first thing that matters, and
Yeah.
then hopefully out of that an overflow like reaches those other places. And so if we're talking to unbelievers, like don't get in arguments over these things because ultimately that's not pointing to Jesus and what actually saves. And so I think that's kind of what your story was of like,
yeah.
You heard one answer and then you're just kind of turned off, but then you heard the gospel and that's what changed you, and then you were able to form your opinions
Yeah.
and things like that.
I remember I went to a Salt late night, like ready to like get them, like that get them mentality, like I'm gonna get you.
Come on.
And they were like, for the first time, they were like, yeah, like we don't actually know. And I was like, like what? A humble Christian?
Oh,
What?
no.
And so, but that's like that actually like softened my heart
Mhm.
so much.
Mm.
And so like I would just, if this ever becomes like an evangelistic area, or if this becomes an area of topic with a non-believer, the way you make this evangelistic is saying probably like a primary. You maybe close hands and be honest about, hey, I do believe that God created the earth. I think there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think even Christians, like I throw Christians underneath the bus all the time. I probably shouldn't do that. That might be a confession, but I'll be like, there are some idiot Christians out there that think that they know the truth. I'll say that, that's probably not good,
Man.
but I think I've actually, and then I'll say like, and to be honest, I actually don't know either. And so what I do know is that I believe that God created the earth, and I think that he could have created the earth through the Big Bang Theory. I think he could have used evolution. I think he could have done everything literally and disguised it in evolution. I think he could have done all these things, but I do believe that he created the earth, and I believe that I was created in his image. And then boom, go to the gospel. Tell him, and that same person actually came down to earth, and I separated myself from him because of my sin, right? And so I thought that I was the creator. I thought that I was all this, all that, like, and I put myself on this pedestal, thought that I knew what was good for myself, and I sinned against him, separating us from him, which we might get to in the next podcast. We'll see.
Yeah.
And then say, but he actually came down to earth for me, and as a human, he took form as a human, and he died the death that I deserved, and I put my faith in that, and I believe that to be truth, and now I believe that I'm going to reign eternally in heaven with that creator. So. That's
Nice.
I think that's just like, if you're gonna get into a room and be like, you don't believe, you have to believe that this is all literal in order to be a Christian, you're gonna lose all unless the Lord is like really priming that person's heart. You'll probably lose every single person you talk to if you're gonna turn it into a debate.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
Yeah, that is good. I like what you said too, is like there's room in that account for people to fall on both sides, because it's not explicitly said. And like we keep coming back to, it's not even about that. It's not the point.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was that quote you said about answering questions that the Bible doesn't?
We can't, I don't remember exactly
We
what I
can't
said.
come with our own agenda.
Yeah, we can't come with our own agenda to scripture. Like we can't put it in the box and force it to answer questions.
That it doesn't answer itself.
Yeah, that it doesn't answer itself. Like for example, the Bible does not go out of its way to prove the existence of God, because the people the Bible is written to, not for, but to, were never asking the question of if God exists.
Yeah.
They were just answering the question of who is that God,
Yeah.
which I would argue the creation story is doing the same thing.
Right. That's interesting. So, well, guys, we're like on our 30-ish minute time limit right now.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts? Vanessa's cooking something up. Me and Daniel will banter a little bit.
Cheeky banter, nothing crazy.
Yeah. So could God have done the Big Bang Theory? Could that be God?
Yeah, for sure. So we know in the creation story, everything came from nothing.
Right.
Looks
That
like the Big Bang
literally
Theory.
could be the Big Bang Theory.
Literally could be the Big Bang Theory. Maybe just to like throw a bone to the people that are really looking for an answer. The creation story is referred to in the New Testament, even by Jesus, literally. Adam is also incorporated into the genealogies. And so that, to me, points towards a literal interpretation.
Yeah.
I had another train of thought, but it just flew by. Yep, I wasn't supposed to talk about it then. But yeah, it does seem to be referred to literally at other points in the Bible, or historically.
I think that's super good. I have found myself in my life going from super literal to not literal at all. And I think I'm being reminded that there actually is, for sure, at least a level of literalness in the creation story. Like it's not completely a story, like a make-believe story. So I would say that would be a dish don't fall in. Don't believe that I think it's clear that the whole entire thing is not just a once upon a time story that is all fantasy.
Yeah. Or you could just like skip those 2, maybe 3 creation stories if you want to count like after the ark.
Right.
And just go to John 1. Like in the beginning was the Word.
Oof.
Right? Just focus on Jesus.
Yeah.
And that is not me
Back to
condoning,
Jesus.
for all you people out there, for semantics' sakes, that's not me condoning not reading the Old Testament. Please read it. It's
Right.
important to understand.
Find the New Testament and the Old Testament. Yeah, what? Reading the Bible?
Maybe a later episode.
Yeah. All right, Vanessa, you got something for us?
I don't remember.
All right. Well, we're gonna end with this question, and I'm kind of hijacking this. We can boo separately.
Let's do it.
I love this idea, and I want to banter about it for a little bit, and I want to invite Kaylee into this. Who wins the Salt Company Hunger Games?
Yo, I love that question.
I've been thinking about this. Okay, I think people would naturally say Travis, but I think Travis is too soft.
You think?
Yeah.
Dude, he's got a very strong competitive edge, and I consider myself to be
He's
super
Really
competitive.
strong.
He's really strong.
Really
I put him
strong.
in the splits at Fuller Tree, and I think Mariah. My case is Mariah.
Really?
I think Mariah would stab me, not even the Hunger Games. I think if I just did something wrong, she would kill me.
But
I could see that.
she's also a 6, which means she fears a lot of things. And so what if she would just
Yeah, if you ascribe to that kind of thinking, though.
like
You
she's
know?
thinking about all the worst case scenarios, which might be to her advantage or might be to her disadvantage.
I have probably been in like double digit tournament like teams with like we played volleyball with Mariah,
Mm-hmm.
and whenever she flips that switch, it's scary.
Have you seen my flip switched?
Competitive wise, I saw you fall onto the ground and try to crawl away from the rower on Wednesday.
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
That was
Put her on blast. Let's
I
go.
thought I was gonna die.
Vanessa literally like was rowing, and like she was in the rower that I was supposed to take. She just
Yeah, it was the end
just
of
fell
my
over.
2000, and I literally rolled off the rower.
I think it's clear that John would not win.
Yeah, no shot. He's too old.
Yeah, that's
So-
true. That's facts.
I'm like hyper logical in these things. So I like.
Haley has a better chance of winning than
I
John.
think so. I
Uh,
really think
Yeah,
Kaylee would
she's
just
like
like
a
disappear.
nurse, so she got hurt. She could
Oh,
like
she's
help
pulling that
us
out. Who's that? Is it
Yeah.
Rue?
Rue. Yeah,
Rue's
she's
like
gonna
the-
like
she's like,
disappear for
yeah,
a
yeah,
while,
yeah.
heal all her wounds.
Kaylee,
I
get in here
really-
real quick. Come on.
Come on, get in
You
here.
can share this mic with me. Who do you? Okay, real quick. Ask Kaylee. Kaylee, who do you? Go on the far side so you're in the camera. Who do you think wins the Hunger Games? Give us your formed thought.
Well, I don't feel like I know all of you all that
Mm.
well enough yet.
What's
but
Physical appearance.
personality thing. Yeah,
physical appearance. I mean, I can see the switch flipping on Mariah, like you were saying. I could see
right.
that. But I don't know. Too soon to tell.
Too soon to tell. Come
To
back.
be continued.
Come back next semester.
I don't know. I really like. I feel like I have to chase this rabbit trail really quick.
Yeah.
My mind's
Go,
been
go, go.
flying.
Well-
it's like
3
it's,
minutes.
it's
left.
not going to come
We're doing
down.
this
To,
for
I
3
don't
more
think it's going
minutes.
to come down to strength because if
I
you have
agree.
to survive, it's not going to matter. Because like for example, like if you and I were wrestling, like I'm stronger than you,
Yeah.
but you're going to pin me, and it's just not going to go well. And granted, like say there's weapons, whatever, but like just like the fighting style thing, I think you kick my butt.
Yeah, or maybe just even down to who's willing to kill another
I
person.
would kill someone so fast.
Yeah,
See, I
I
would
could see
not.
the flip switching. I would.
Dude, I
Everything
tell
would
you guys-
turn red, and I just
Have I told you guys the
Rage.
story about the fact that I paralyzed someone?
what in the
There's a
world?
dude in Oklahoma that's paralyzed from the neck down because of me.
No.
Yeah, I feel like I might not. I probably shouldn't get into this. I broke a dude's neck at a wrestling
that will
meet.
be left on the editing floor.
It was at a wrestling camp. No, this is kind of dope. Well, not dope. I feel terrible.
This is actually great. Favorite story.
Oh my
no.
word.
Yeah, I was at a wrestling
scared
camp in
of you.
Oklahoma, and I went to anybody that knows wrestling went to cradle him. I went to bring his head
Uh-huh.
I don't
and his
wanna-
leg together,
Nope.
and he went to turn
No.
away from it, and I literally just bent his back like just straight back,
Nope.
and
no.
I just rolled him over and pinned him, and I was like, this is the easiest pin I've ever had. And then like an hour went by, and he hadn't moved yet, and they brought in the stretcher, and then
Oh my gosh.
one of his teammates said like 5 days later in the camp that he's paralyzed from the neck down. I haven't followed up with him. That could have been a temporary thing.
I hope so.
But
All I'm seeing is like Bane picking up Batman and just breaking his back on his knee.
oh yeah, that's not what happened. I'm not that strong.
I don't know. That's all
I
I'm
was
seeing.
I was in 8th grade. Yeah.
Was
Briar
this guy
peaked
like
early.
a pee-wee guy, just fragile bones?
He's my age.
I know, but
I was a small 8th grader. I weighed 85 pounds.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, so that makes me a little scared of you.
I would not break your back unless it was the Hunger Games.
It was the
and I would
Hunger
in a
Games. Say
heartbeat.
you had to. I think you would.
I've done it before. I'm not afraid to do it again.
I've seen Briar lock in playing ping pong with him, and when he does, it's like he's hard to beat.
But yeah, that was one time.
That's fair.
Daniel's
He's
super good at ping pong, by the way.
not that good at ping pong.
He's
He's
pretty
really
good.
a bit better at the Hunger Games.
All right. So real quick, final win. Who wins?
That's hard. Circle back to me. I need to think on it more.
Travis.
Ah,
Oh
so
my gosh.
cliche. I'm going Mariah. I think Mariah's got that killer instinct. Kaylee, you said to be determined. Aiden, who do you got? Don't say John. Okay, thanks, man. Aiden's sat in my discipleship too long. He knows how my mind works, and he's scared of it.
Aiden picked Briar.
Aiden picked Briar.
That's fair. I think this is my play-by-play. In my arrogance in the Hunger Games, I neglect to pay attention to my surroundings.
Such a
Someone
long
comes up
answer.
behind me, dead. It's Mariah. She wins the Hunger Games.
Yeah, I think Mariah is just like, I think she would eat someone. Okay, we need to shut this
Yeah, it's
podcast
like,
off.
all right.
Getting weird.
All right. Hey, we love you guys.
Have a great break. Great Christmas. We will be back when?
Not next Thursday.
Week
but-
after next.
In between Christmas and New Year's?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so what is that, like the 28th or 29th or something like that?
Sure.
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 Peace.
Peace.
Love you guys.